Our reading this morning is from the second chapter of the Gospel of Matthew, and I'm reading from the New Revised Standard Version. This very familiar story. In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? For we observed his star at its rising and have come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all of Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it has been written by the prophet. And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod secretly called for the wise men and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word, so that I may also go and pay him homage." When they had heard the king, they set out. And there ahead of them went the star that they had seen at its rising, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then, opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. May God add a blessing to our hearing, understanding, and living of this holy word. And now may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable to you, O God, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. In my neighborhood, I'm starting to see the discarded Christmas trees at the curb. A sure sign that this year's celebration of Christmas is drawing to a close. At our house, we're making a list of thank you notes to write, vacuuming up pine needles, and eating the last of the ham, I hope. Retail has already turned its attention to Valentine's Day and beyond, and store aisles are filled with unwanted Christmas-themed merchandise at 50, 60, 75% off, which makes us shudder when we realize what we paid only a few weeks ago. Yet here in the church, we know we have one more story to tell, an exceedingly important story before we can move on. Today is Epiphany, or Twelfth Night, the official end of Christmas on the church calendar, when traditionally we have focused on the story of the Magi, their journey to pay homage to the newly born King of the Jews, their only sign a brilliant star in the heavens leading them to the stable in Bethlehem. And this morning is no exception. No matter how many times I hear this story, my mind inevitably wanders back to an earlier time and another place, surrounded by faces as clear to me as every one of yours is today. to the little church of my childhood, and where on Christmas Eve, a blue star hung on the choir loft at the front of the church, high, so that we had to lift our eyes to see it. A string of blue lights attached to what I expect were metal coat hangers shaped in the form of a star. We were Baptists, which meant that our worship space was unadorned 364 days a year. Just your basic blonde finished woodwork and green carpet of the 50s. A plain gold cross on the altar, a few stained glass windows dedicated to the congregation's founders. But on Christmas Eve, the sanctuary was transformed into a place of wonder. Its centerpiece, the lit blue star twinkling above our heads, like the star that guided the Magi so long ago. Alan and I paid homage to that little church and its star on the pages of our 2013 Christmas calendar, a gift we make annually to send to members of our family. Each year we choose a different theme and find photos to match, or vice versa. One year it was favorite family recipes, and the pages were filled with pictures and directions for making Aunt Dee's fudge and Grandma's pineapple cream cheese pie, or on my side of the family, a dish we call Louisiana put-together. Last year, we came upon a stash of old Christmas cards, all received from family, some going back more than 75 years, and made a patchwork that covered January through December. This year's theme, Special Places, Sacred Spaces, was inspired not only by the one church and the important role it played in my life, but our growing awareness of the central role church played in our families' histories, and led us on kind of a quest. First, across the St. Croix to a country church in Pierce County, Wisconsin, St. John's UCC, where my great-great-grandparents were founding members, where the carols were undoubtedly sung in German for a generation or more, and where distant cousins still sit in the pews. We took pictures inside and out and listened as the pastor told us of a project early in the 20th century to dig a basement under the current church, under that building, and how the members set about doing it themselves. Most probably my grandfather and my great uncles among them, and how proud they were of their accomplishment, and how the story has become part of church lore. And then another trip took us west to Chaska and to Guardian Angels Catholic Church, its spire rising above the old downtown as it did in the day that Alan's mother went to that Guardian Angels school where she was baptized and confirmed. St. John's now appears in January of our calendar, and Guardian Angels is February, and, in case you're wondering, University Baptist Church is November. Oddly enough, it's looking backward that helps me move forward. I need touchstones to remind me who I am and from where I've come, and to name those things which are of ultimate importance to me. Looking backward is what the gospel writer is calling us to do as he tells the story of the Magi, reminding them of the royal lineage of Jesus, but also extending to Father Abraham. The promised Messiah wouldn't be born just anywhere, but in the city of David, in Bethlehem of Judea. A great prophet had foretold this. And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for from you shall come a ruler who is shepherd of my people Israel. And the full weight of Israel's history was on his side. There was joy when the Magi reached Bethlehem, and yet, as we all know, trouble lay ahead. Well, there was distinct joy at our house this Christmas, which hasn't always been the case. I remember all too well our very first Christmas in Minnesota, some 28 years ago. How lonely we were. My mother was in poor health and far away, as were our closest and dearest friends. We were in the process of dividing and selling the Eyre family farm and already mourning its loss. There was no warm church community to embrace us. We have a photo from that era that shows us trying to put smiles on our faces and not really succeeding. But this year, the mood in our household was abounding in good cheer and reasons to be thankful. Our son was home. We enjoyed the company of extended family at the dinner table, laughed, and played games and walked in the snow, and then talked and talked and talked and talked. There's a temptation that comes with good times. We want them to go on forever and are reluctant to let go, as sooner or later we must. I, for one, often put so much energy into the preparation for Christmas, weeks and weeks and weeks, it seems, of planning and shopping and cooking and card writing and decorating, that when it arrives and then passes all too quickly, when a loved one gets on the plane, when the needles on the tree are turning brown, when the cookies have grown stale, I'm not ready for it to be over. I want to hang on. And I like it at the stable, where there's peace and quiet and joy, and all of life seems a bit simpler and in harmony. I like it when my loved ones are close, when no January bills are yet coming due, no trips to the dentist, no worn-out carpeting to replace, no monetary debt ceiling. I want to linger, if only for a little while longer, in Bethlehem. The story reminds us that even the peace and safety of the manger is fleeting. After paying homage to Mary and the child and offering their gifts of gold and frankincense and myrrh, the Magi could not stay, but returned to their own country on the back roads and in haste, having been warned in a dream to avoid King Herod. Their mission accomplished, they made their escape. Our journey beyond the manger is less clear. Christmas has come and now gone, and we know we can't escape to a foreign country. It's back to Jerusalem for us, to our offices and factories and studies and research and child rearing, and to fights over fiscal policy and commuting and dishwashing. We're returned to the mundane and faced with the same old problems as we had before. We know that there has been a fundamental shift in our reality because of all that we have seen and heard. The glow of the faces over lit candles on Christmas Eve is fresh in our minds. so too the sweet sounds of silent night. But will it make a difference? Will we sense God's presence? Will we truly believe that the Holy One has come to dwell with us? Can we live our lives more fully? Can we translate the good news of the angels into good news and healing for a sick, sin-sick, and broken world? The poet, Anne Weems, sums up our post-Christmas dilemma in a poem she calls Later, as well as offering a word of encouragement. Let us listen. Later, she writes, after the angels, after the stable, after the child, they went back, as we always must, back to the world that doesn't understand our talk of angels and stars, and especially not the child. We go back complaining that it doesn't last. They went back singing praises to God. We do have to go back, but we can sing the Alleluias. To that, let us say, Alleluia, praise be to God. Let us all say that. Alleluia, praise be to God. Amen.